Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. I'm Cole Stout. I'm the president of student government, and I'm here to introduce our president, Stephen Leath. President Stephen Leath can often be found walking from the Knoll to Beardshire, having dinner at Greek chapter houses, attending athletic events, or advocating for Iowa State in many other ways. As president of student government, I have more access to President Leath than most students, and a lot of administrators too. But I'll be honest, when I go to talk to President Leath, it can be a little bit intimidating, and it's very intimidating for many students that don't know him. I was so nervous going to my first one-on-one meeting with President Leath that I was shaking. I had thought of President Leath as a business guy who just wanted to make the university run more efficiently, and to be honest, I was wrong. When I approached President Leath to ask for some advice on how to change the classroom food policy for student organizations, he gladly took it upon himself to see that the policy was changed. I began to realize that President Leath knows the university is here for the students, and he does listen to us, which means a lot to me. But I will say that saying I don't agree with one of President Leath's ideas is very scary. But he always listens to me and respects my views. And President Leath makes himself available to me whenever I need to talk to him. Just a few weeks ago, I needed to make a Snapchat story for one of my classes, so I just texted President Leath and asked him if he'd be in it, and despite his busy schedule, he made time for me and was actually very excited to do it. He cares about every student, faculty member, and all of the university staff. He wants what is best for everyone and makes hard decisions every day. And I am proud that he is our president. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you a mentor and a friend, Iowa State University President, Stephen Leath.
You did good. Well, I didn't know what Cole had prepared, but that was actually delightful, Cole. So thanks for that introduction. So I'll say good evening to everyone. Thanks for being here. And I'll also say today on campus, Cole represents one of 36,660 students who are one step closer to earning an Iowa State degree. That's a lot of students, but we're thrilled to have them. We also have 2,000 faculty members here who are inspiring those students every single day. He gave me some credit, but I want to give the faculty credit for inspiring students to reach their full potential and making them and helping them along the pathway to innovation. And I especially want to do a shout out to our 4,400 staff members who every single day come in here excited, dedicated, and making sure the university fulfills its land-grant mission and in all three of our primary areas. So welcome to all of you, especially those of you that are here in person tonight, and also a welcome to those who are watching online. This is a transformational time for Iowa State. It's really an exciting time to be at Iowa State. And while change can be exciting, it's a challenge for us as well, and I think that's something we want to talk about here tonight. Our campus is growing, but at the same time, we've been fortunate that our community is close-knit. We're working to become more diverse and at the same time to become more inclusive. And we'll talk a little bit about those challenges. And while we're raising the profile and reputation of the university, we want to remain true to our long history of land-grant principles. So as I look at the university today, I can comment that we're experiencing not only major change in our student population, but in our campus landscape among our university leadership. There are many new faces on campus this year in leadership positions. So what I want to do is take a minute and call out those people, have them stand, and please this time actually listen to the speaker and don't clap for each one. We'll wait till the end so we can move through this speech. So first, I want to introduce Kate Gregory, who is our new Senior Vice President for University Services. Kate, make sure everybody knows who you are. Second, I want to introduce Mike Norton, new University Counsel. Mike. Dr. Reg Stewart is with us tonight, and he has been here a little while, but it's his first full academic year as Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion. Margot Foreman sitting right next to him, and she has taken the role of Director of Equal Opportunity and serves as our Title IX Coordinator, so welcome, Margot. Where's Dr. Harmon? I saw him earlier. There he is. Martino, stand up. Martino's a familiar face to many of you, but he was promoted to Senior Vice President for Student Affairs last spring, and he's doing a great job. Relative newcomer, Dr. Laura Jolly is with us. Laura is the new holder of the Dean's Chair in the College of Human Sciences. Welcome to you, too. Aaron Baldwin. Aaron is the new director of the Student Health Center, who's been doing a remarkable job. I saw Muhammad in the back earlier. Muhammad Ali, there he is. Muhammad Ali is head of ISU Dining, and he's one of the more innovative, entrepreneurial new members of the team. Great to have you on board, Muhammad. In athletics, Jamie Traxler is the new head coach of our softball team. I don't know if Jamie's with us tonight. Oh, there she is right there. So thank you. And of course, many of you know Matt Campbell took the helm of the football program this year. As far as myself, I'm still here, which is good for me. But I will say that I've taken on new roles. I'm a member of the NCAA Division I Board of Directors, helping to enhance the student-athlete experience. And more recently, I took a position as a member of the Board of Governors with responsibility for overall oversight of the NCAA. So now let's give all these new members a Cyclone welcome. That's a good group. Now, during this transformational time that we're going through, we've been giving a lot of thought and administration to the future, and we're looking at a number of questions. First, how can we better position the university to meet the challenges of the 21st century? How can we meet the changing needs of our students, especially with the changing numbers? How can we lead the way in science and innovation to better serve the state, the nation, and the world? And how can we make everyone on this campus feel safe, welcome, included, and valued? The last question, too, is how can we ensure that we have the resources necessary to support these priorities? It's a very different question than the other more philosophical ones. But these are the questions that have kind of guided the visioning and development of a new university strategic plan. In developing a strategic plan for a large, complex organization like Iowa State is a tremendous undertaking, and it was truly a campus-wide effort. The plan was crafted with broad support across the whole campus. We had input from faculty, staff, students, community leaders, various university stakeholders, and then 6 subcommittees totaling more than 100 members contributed to the assemblage of the plan. We also got hundreds of comments online, and feedback was collected at our 4 public forums. And all this was done in a relatively short period of time. The steering committee received their charge in October. The final plan was all the way done, vetted, and approved by the Board of Regents by July. So I bring up the strategic plan for 2 reasons. One, I want to give acknowledgement to everyone who worked on it. And 2, much of my remarks tonight will be structured around the strategic plan as the vision for where we want to go over this year and the next few years. So for those of you, again, who contributed, thank you very much. Your contributions were invaluable in the creation of a set of comprehensive, diverse goals, metrics, and other action items. But I especially want to thank one individual, Steve Freeman, right here in the light-colored sport jacket. Steve, you ought to stand up for this. Steve Freeman is a university professor. He led the steering committee effort. He was the one that kept the process on track. He was the driving force. He secured broad, balanced input from all over, and he made sure he got it. And he made sure the plan aligned with the plan of the Board of Regents. Steve, you did a super job, so everyone should say thanks. Now, the steering committee has been busy even after the Board of Regents approved the plan. So that those of you that know, they got to work right away on implementation and accountability plan. I told them from the beginning this plan had to have specific accountability and action items. We want to make sure that the plan doesn't become an old document that just sits on the shelf that we don't really look at again or we just bring out in 6 years. My vision of this strategic plan is it would be a living document, one that would be adjusted and tweaked as we go forward. It's going to hopefully reflect the changing needs of the university over the next 6 years. Hopefully we did a good job of predicting most of them, but we realize some of them will have to change. And that's actually why we didn't print a bunch of strategic plans. When you came in tonight, you should have found a card that looks like this on your chair. The card features the university's mission and vision, and then the plan's 4 overarching goals. Those 4 overarching goals won't change during the period of the plan. I do want to point out that the plan has a number of sub-goals, a variety of metrics, action items, and we're going to revisit those annually and make adjustments to them. So I encourage you to read the strategic plan. You can find it on strategicplan.iastate.edu. The site for the strategic plan is really good. Megan sent me a link today. It just came up. It looks really, really good. So I encourage you to take a look at that. The website is also listed on these cards, I believe, too. If I had my glasses on, I could tell you for sure, but you have to trust me on that. We also have posters available for display in your offices, departments, and labs to increase awareness of the mission and vision. It's always bothered me a little bit since I've been president here that some people don't know our mission or vision. So we're going to make that a little easier for people to see, especially students as they're in our buildings. And you can expect that each year at my annual address, I will make some reference and discuss progress towards goals in a strategic plan so that you'll know if we're on track and what our changes might be. Now, also, we're required to report on progress of the strategic plan to the board each year. And you'll be able to find those progress reports, data, and other information on the website through the year, too. So tonight, I'm happy to officially launch the strategic plan. I'll introduce it in more detail with the 4 overarching goals that are going to stay in place. And then members of my cabinet who will be responsible for implementation of each of these goals will be introduced in their roles. I'll discuss some new initiatives and measures that will set us on a course, I hope, to some substantive positive changes over the next few years. First thing, though, I want to note that it's important to realize that the university's overall mission and vision has not changed. We remain committed to creating, sharing, and applying knowledge to make Iowa and the world a better place. And we will continue to strive to lead the world in advancing land-grant ideals that put science, technology, and human creativity to work. We want the results of our science and scholarship to make a difference to people. And while we do this, Cole will be glad to hear that we're going to put students first. So goal 1 of the strategic plan is to ensure access to the Iowa State experience, including an exceptional education. We want to improve the experience for underrepresented students and prepare all students for lives and careers in a dynamic global community. This first goal will be managed jointly by Senior Vice President Provost Jonathan Wickert and Senior Vice President for Student Affairs Martino Harmon. They'll also have support from Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion Reg Stewart in this hugely important #1 goal. One of the most significant outcomes of this goal will be a creation of a comprehensive campus climate system, an assessment system. It's probably going to take a year or 2 to get this done. It'll be a complicated process, but it's an important one. And the purpose of this system will be to measure and evaluate the campus climate. I hope it's going to provide really valuable, almost invaluable information on the educational experience, especially for our underrepresented students. The system will be developed with a lot of input from Dr. Stewart, as well as other administrators and advocates on this campus and this community for our underrepresented students. So Goal 1 also places a major emphasis on high-impact educational activities, such as study abroad, faculty-student research projects, service learning, internships, and co-ops. There'll also be efforts under this goal to grow our graduate programs, increase retention, improve graduation and placement rates, while maintaining affordability. We'll talk about the affordability issue a little more later. These focus areas are central to the exceptional experience our students expect and want when they come to Iowa State, and I think they do receive it both inside and outside the classroom. We want that to continue. And we need an education that we can go to the citizens of Iowa and say is both accessible and affordable and high quality to our students. That's really the core of our land-grant mission. And that's really why the demand for an Iowa State degree has grown to unprecedented levels, as we've seen with enrollment over the last few years. So while I think all of us, maybe especially some of us in Beach, are really proud of the demand and growth that we've seen at Iowa State, we know it's not sustainable without a significant increase in resources. And that's something we think about every day. Fortunately, this fall, while we did welcome another record number of students enrolled here at Iowa State, our enrollment increased at a much more modest rate than we've seen in recent years. It's what we planned for and what we hoped for was to still accommodate students that wanted to come, but in a much more manageable pace. If we want to continue to make Iowa State education accessible, and we do, but we want to grow at a pace that allows us to protect and maintain our quality, it's going to take some effort. So last year at the annual address, I charged the Faculty Senate to engage the campus in exploring long-term, sustainable ways to manage our growth. We couldn't look at something this complex and this important without some shared governance. So I want to thank the Faculty Senate, and specifically the Enrollment Management Task Force, for their thoughtful, thorough, and to some ways, for me, a very eye-opening report they submitted to me earlier this summer. So Jonathan and those of you in the Faculty Senate, thank you. In addition to providing recommendations for enrollment management, the report also details how rapid growth coupled with inadequate resources has negatively impacted some programs. And to get that front and center, pull the covers off that so we could see it was hugely important. Examples of classroom, laboratory, and staff shortages, overcrowded courses, put a finer point on the case I continue to make to legislative leaders every year, and that is that lagging state funding has put the high-quality Iowa State experience at risk. We have to deal with this issue. The truth is we've been unable to make meaningful improvements in our national rankings and our student-to-faculty ratio because of the tremendous growth we've seen coupled with limited new resources. Our faculty ratio has remained at 19-1 despite the provost and the deans working incredibly hard to hire over 400 new faculty in the last 5 years. If you think about that, that's an amazing statistic. I definitely appreciate what the governor, the legislature, and the Board of Regents have done for us and try to do for us. But the reality is it's not enough. So I showed this graph that's coming up now at a Regents meeting last week, and I think it tells a really compelling story. If you look at that graph, our enrollment has increased to record levels over the past 8 years, records every year. And our state appropriation per resident student is rapidly declining at the same time of this enrollment surge. In 2008, when this enrollment surge began, we received about $12,700 for each resident student we had at Iowa State. This meant that nearly equal amounts of our budget revenue came from the state as well as from tuition and fees. It was nearly a 50-50 split. Today, we have gone down to $9,400 per resident student from the state. That's a decline of over $3,000 per student in the last 8 years. The budget, therefore, has dramatically shifted in such a way that now less than 30% of our budget comes from the state funds, and nearly 70% is coming from tuition on the backs of our students and their families. To put this another way and give you some perspective, we would need the legislature to increase our general state appropriation by $65 million at one time to get us back to where we were in 2008. The bottom line is that's not going to happen. So we will continue to call on state lawmakers to increase support for higher education. We'll work with the regions to do that, and we'll lobby aggressively for more funding and support. But we've got to be realistic at the same time about the state's economic situation, the slowing farm economy, and other priorities in the legislature, quite frankly. So as a result, I have to tell you tonight that as I stand before you, we're going to have to make adjustments to the revenue stream that we have the most control over. And unfortunately, that's tuition and fees. We want our students and their families to be prepared for a number of potential changes. So first, we will propose to the Board of Regents a two-tiered tuition structure. This approach will involve a lower tuition rate for freshmen and sophomores and a higher tuition rate for juniors and seniors. It's a straightforward approach. It's a manageable approach, a reasonable approach. It reflects the higher cost associated with more advanced and increasingly specialized coursework, learning opportunities, personalized instruction, smaller classes that you get as you proceed through your undergraduate education. To ease the burden of this new structure, we'll propose a 3-year phase-in program starting next fall. We're also looking at increasing some student fees in conjunction with student government. We'll do this very, very carefully to provide better critical support and care in some areas such as student health and technology. In addition to this, the Board of Regents is implementing a new 2-year tuition and budget model to provide predictability for our students and their families. It's fairly modest. It calls for incremental tuition increase at 2% in the fall of 2017 and another 2% in the fall of 2018. And it also requests the 2% increase in the general fund for our university in that same time frame. Those 2% numbers are pretty reasonable. I think they're achievable in the legislature, but we'll find out. I want everyone here to know, and everyone that reads this or hears this speech, that we gave this very careful consideration. Nobody in a position like mine wants to raise the cost of education. We sought input from students, stakeholders, and together we determined the new tuition structure and this incremental tuition and fee increase will help us maintain the quality our students expect and deserve. The good news is, though, because I want to keep this in perspective, if we make all of these increases, Iowa State will remain one of the most affordable universities among our peer institutions. Right now, we are the most affordable. It's quite likely we'll make all of these changes and still be the most affordable. So I want to keep that point sharp, because we're not getting way out ahead of our skis on this thing. But having said that, I'll say again, we recognize that any increase in tuition can create hardships for our students and their families, and we'll be as mindful about how we implement this and how large they are as we possibly can be. But we've heard over and over again from our students, they do not want to sacrifice the quality of their experience here. A good part of this whole thing, though, is it's kept me highly motivated. So to that I say, to ease the financial burden that this seems to put forward for the students, everybody in my administration is going to work diligently to raise additional private support. Matter of fact, it was exactly 4 years ago at this speech that I launched the Moving Students Forward campaign, a 5-year initiative to raise an additional $150 million in student support and scholarships to help offset some of these costs. Last year, we reached the $150 million mark early, so we upped that goal to $200 million in 5 years. Well, tonight I'm pleased to say in just 4 years, we've now reached and surpassed the $200 million goal, and we're a full year ahead of schedule. So that is a tremendous amount of resources our friends, alumni, and supporters have put forth to help make college here more affordable. In the 4 years since this initiative took off, more than 23,000 students have received support through Moving Students Forward. So I want to thank everyone that participated in this, as well as other institutional scholarships. And when you combine all of this together, this is an exciting number. We've been able to lower student debt by 8.5% during that short time period. So I want to thank everyone who supported that initiative. So those of us here, let's make sure we thank all of those out there that are listening who contributed. I think the students already realize how supportive our alumni are, but this just helps reinforce that point. And I also want to continue this point and say, although this is a really notable milestone, we should all be pleased about this and proud of this, our work doesn't end here. Student support is going to continue to be a top priority as we kick off what's going to be the largest comprehensive capital campaign in the history of Iowa State University. So over the last year, we've been engaged in a collaborative university-wide effort to establish goals and priorities, develop a timeline, and prepare the public for the public launch of this historic campaign. And this campaign comes with a historic goal, too. It will be the first time Iowa State has ever set out on a campaign to raise over $1 billion. That's a tremendous amount of money we're going to try and raise from the people that love this university. But as you can see what they've done in Moving Students Forward, we have the people that can help us get there. So the official launch and the theme will be revealed September 30th. It's really quick now. It'll be soon. So you're going to be hearing a lot about the campaign through your colleges, departments, and units in the weeks and months ahead. It's an exciting time. There's no doubt that private support and public funds both help us maintain the quality Iowa State experience. Much of this private money is what enables us to make critical investments in our faculty, our staff, our students, and to really give us the facilities that everybody wants here on this campus. I'd like to talk just a minute about some of those facilities and some of the recent campus beautification projects, because as important as all the people are here, they're most important. It's hard for them to be fully successful without the right facilities. So after 2 years of work, the College of Engineering is back home in the beautifully restored Marston Hall. It's great. Janet and I were in it the other Sunday night. It's really, really nice. We successfully preserved the historic and elements of a really iconic building on campus. There's a lot of student-centered upgrades in Marston, and we're going to hold an official dedication later this month. Great project. Last spring, we were joined by the United States Secretary of Energy, Ernest Moniz. He was here for the opening of the Ames Laboratory's new sensitive instrument facility. It's a facility that really holds potential for unprecedented scientific discoveries in our nation's rare earth materials and some of our major energy challenges. It's a really neat facility with unbelievable equipment. In June, we dedicated our Economic Development Core facility at the Research Park, which really expands our ability to both coordinate and integrate economic development assistance to our partners. And the facility also frees up critical space on Central Campus for faculty and staff, which is a real bonus to that facility. We opened the Memorial Union this fall for student housing, and Buchanan 2 will be ready for move-in the spring semester, so that's really exciting. And also later this semester, we'll really start moving forward on the new 100,000 square foot Student Innovation Center that will really transform one part of our campus. Great facility for our students. The physical plant skyline is going to change dramatically too, which is dear to my heart, because one of the two giant smokestacks that always bugs me every time I look at them will be coming down as part of a major multi-million-dollar campus investment in environmental sustainability. So that's a really neat project. The south part of campus is really taking shape as we make progress on the Jack Trice Stadium Green Space Project and the new access to Ryman Gardens. I also hope if you came in tonight from the front that you noticed the beautiful new landscape plaza around the Fountain of the Four Seasons. It is really spectacular. I want to give a special thanks to First Lady Janet Leath up here and landscape architect Rhonda Martin with physical plant who really drove this project to success. It is really beautiful out there, so thanks to them. And I will say that, I don't think we can underestimate how important the campus aesthetic is to the Iowa State experience. Students constantly comment about how beautiful the campus is when they're looking at campuses. And I'd say I take great pride, I think we all take great pride in providing state-of-the-art, beautiful, environmentally friendly learning and living spaces, and this is all part of that. And while we strive to have the very best facilities in the world, it's truly our people, as I said earlier, that dictate the level of excellence at this university. To that end, we will continue to make the recruitment and retainment of world-class faculty our top priority, particularly as we try and drive the student-faculty ratio in a better direction. So I'll say I'm very pleased to welcome over 70 new faculty this year. That number is smaller than what you've seen us hire the last few years in our big hiring push. But it's also important to note that this year we had the lowest faculty resignation rate in the past 3 decades. So faculty are being retained here as we hire new ones. We are working hard to make sure that these best people that we go out and get or already have here want to stay here. And that's why last year I pledged to make salary increases a top budget priority for the campus. And I was very pleased that we were able to deliver on that promise. But I realize we're still not where we need to be. And I suppose some of you would be glad to agree with me, which is okay. So as a result, we're in administration going to continue to make salary increases our high budget priority as we move forward this year. And we think with our new CFO, Miles Lackey, he's working hard, he's got his pencils sharp, we think we can get there. So Miles, there's some pressure for you. But I think we can get there. So related to that, we are also undertaking a massive effort this year to review and potentially overhaul our pay structure on this campus. It's tied in part to changes being dictated to us by the Fair Labor Standards Act that are going to take place December 1st and will impact overtime eligibility. For those who don't deal with these things every day, some of these federal mandates are a huge issue for us on campus. Those in HR and University Council, Mike Norton, spent a lot of time on this issue. So as we go through this, University Human Resources will continue to meet with groups all over campus through the semester to explain how these changes are going to impact you and your units on campus. I want to say that investing in people, though, is so important, not only because they enhance the academic piece of our mission, but also because they're the ones that strengthen and really drive our research efforts on this campus. And so I'm going to go to goal number 2. Now all the goals aren't going to take as long as goal number 1, so don't be nervous. Goal number 2 of the strategic plan is to enhance the university's research profile by conducting high-impact research to address the challenges of the 21st century. This goal, of course, will be managed by Vice President of Research, Sarah Nusser. So first off, I want to acknowledge the exceptional work of our faculty. This is pretty exciting stuff, I'm going to tell you. Despite a national and global economic downturn and some volatility, our faculty helped secure this year a record $425.8 million in external funding last year. That is amazing. And when federal funding was really, really tight, this number I told you about included research funding increase of 12% to $252 million, an all-time record for our faculty. So again, an incredible achievement in very difficult circumstances. More specifically, support from federal agencies, industry, nonprofits, and the straight grew to 5-year highs. So this is just a great accolade for our faculty that they were able to do this. It's also a testament to the emphasis we put on interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary research over the last few years. You know, when I got here, we launched something called the President's Interdisciplinary Research Initiative, and I'm pleased to say it's really making a difference. In the 4 years since we launched PIIR, 2 of the original 4 projects received pursuit funding awards have already moved forward to the point where they're becoming interdisciplinary research centers. That's amazingly quick for research centers to move at that pace. So I want to recognize a couple people. Martin Spalding, who retired this summer, was one of our principal investigators. Him and his team had a great project on working to advance crop bioengineering, and it's moved to the center level. I also want to recognize principal investigator Balaji Narsamin, who has a really exciting project in nanovaccines. Him and his group are trying to transform the design and manufacture of these nanovaccines. Those are 2 of the great projects. But I also want to make a stop here for a second and just say, in addition to all the great work the faculty are doing, and you know, we get some credit because this is titled the Presidential Initiative, this initiative had not gone the way it has without Senior Vice President and Provost John Wickert and Vice President Sarah Nusser really driving this forward and providing much of the leadership for this. So John and Sarah, thanks for your efforts on this. Because of this initiative's early success, we moved to expand the initiative this year and provide seed fundings that are related specifically to data-driven sciences. And that's not just because we got Sarah from statistics, but we are in the age of big data, folks. And we are now serving as a co-leader of the National Science Foundation's Midwest Big Data Hub. And projects associated with that will align our efforts, align Iowa State's efforts to be a national leader in this really emerging field. And we're well positioned for that role. Another reason for the success of this research enterprise that I'd like to point out is the quality of the grant proposals. Obviously, you're not going to get grants without great proposals, but the excellent support we're getting from our relatively new grants hub is helping drive this. So that, again, was a great investment, and I want to recognize those in the grants hub for their efforts. Moving forward this year, we plan to expand our seed programs beyond the PIR program. Sarah and her team are developing a peer mentor group for specific agencies who have mentors who have had success with those agencies, mentoring faculty so they can have success there. And we'll continue to work more closely with our agency stakeholders to promote Iowa State's visibility with those agencies, much like we did last year when we hosted a National Endowment for the Humanities regional workshop on our campus where our faculty could meet leaders from those agencies and the leaders could see what our great faculty were doing. We're also making progress to expand and upgrade our research facilities. I think most of you know about our biosciences program. You're seeing the addition to Bessie Hall well out of the ground by now, and you should be seeing the new advanced teaching and research facility definitely coming out of the ground too. And I'm excited tonight to announce the plans for a new capital project. We're about to launch a major fundraising and state lobbying effort to secure funds for a new veterinary diagnostic lab. Now, for those of you that aren't completely familiar with this project, I'll give you a little background. First, this will be an over $120 million capital project. It will be the most expensive, complex building we've ever built at Iowa State. But it's also one of the most critical to us and the state's needs right now. The VDL puts Iowa State on the map as a national leader in protecting animal and human health. And I'll give you an example here. Last year, the VDL was on the forefront of the avian influenza outbreak. Services and resources provided by the VDL are in such high demand that in just the last 5 years, the caseload in this lab has more than doubled. And you're talking about a doubling of their caseload in a facility that was built in the 1970s when science was very different than it is today. So now we have a grossly outdated, overcrowded facility trying to serve in a critical area for this state and the nation. So the project has been talked about for several years, but it's now going to be our top legislative priority outside of general funding for education. So we're making the case to the legislature for over $100 million for 5 years to fund this new facility. The rest we'll try and raise privately. I think the Vet Diagnostic Lab, though, really epitomizes our land-grant mission, and we'll talk about when we go to the legislature, because we're going to apply world-class technology to actually solve real-world problems and really help the people of this state and the nation. So now I'm going to go on to goal 3, which is to improve the quality of life for Iowans through the services and programs dedicated to economic development, as well as the promotion of healthy communities, people, and environments. This goal is going to be managed by Vice President of Extension Outreach, Kath Ann Kress, as well as Vice President for Economic Development and Industry Relations, Mike Crum. They'll run this goal together. Each year, more than 1 in 3 Iowans directly benefits from extension and outreach programs. To think we serve over 1 million of the 3 million Iowans every year to that program is remarkable. There's not just concentrations on agriculture, but we're also in natural resources, health and well-being, youth development, community and economic development. And in addition, it serves as an essential link to transfer the knowledge and scholarship we generate here on campus and our innovation across the state to make a difference in people's lives. Extension and outreach also increases the university's visibility, which eventually translates to help in the legislature. Matter of fact, those of you that follow them on Twitter like I did, Extension just wrapped up a really hugely successful social media partnership with Cyclone Athletics. They promoted Iowa State in every single county in Iowa through the hashtag ISU99 campaign. It was kind of a fun scavenger hunt in every county. Like I say, most of you probably saw a lot of the Facebook posts and tweets this summer. But now Extension and Outreach is taking on another exciting project. I think this is really cool. They're going to share the state of Iowa's land-grant story with all Iowans. I'm proud that we're a land-grant university. I think we all are. But I'm not sure most people know what it really means to be a land-grant institution in the historic sense. So Extension is going to go on a mission to explain the key functions of the Land-Grant Act. And they're actually going to mine down and find out who owns the land that went for sale in the Land-Grant Act to establish this great university. Many people are kind of surprised to learn that the land that was sold as part of the Land-Grant Act isn't the land our campus sits on. It's land out in the state. So it'd be fun for us and those people to be identified as the people that hold the land that made this place possible. So you'll hear a lot about that project throughout the year. I think it'll be a project that'll get national attention, so I'm pretty excited. I don't think we can thank Extension Outreach enough for what they do in terms of bringing the value of Iowa State out through our 99 county campus. So to Extension Outreach, I say thank you. And I think it's the spirit of Extension Outreach that started a long time ago, and it started first at Iowa State of all the universities in this country, that really drives our economic development efforts and our values and our approach. So last year, for example, the Center for Industrial Research and Service and the Iowa Small Business Development Center assisted a total of more than 1,800 businesses, at least one in all 99 counties, and more than 6,500 jobs were created or retained as a result of CERIS. Over the past 5 years alone, companies licensing technology that was developed at Iowa State generated $2.6 billion in sales from these innovations. So Extension Outreach, partnering with our with our economic development group, is really driving the economy in the state. As a result of all this effort, I'm pleased to say this year, some of you have not heard that Iowa State was designated by the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, APLU, as many of us know it, as an Innovation and Economic Prosperity University. Of all the thousands of universities in this country, there's only 54 that have this designation. We're the only university in Iowa with this designation, and it really recognizes that economic development, as one reviewer put it, is in the DNA of Iowa State. So it's a great accolade to all of you who go out and do this work. This wonderful recognition encourages us to continue to think about economic development in bigger and bolder terms. So over the summer, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we opened the Economic Development Core Facility in the Research Park. The facility is finally bringing together all of our economic development assistance efforts in one modern, attractive, easily accessible location. Those who haven't been should go out there and visit Mike Crum. His building boasts a real modern, collaborative working environment. It's different from many of our other buildings. It also anchors the collaboration hub and social gathering spot for much of the research park. So it's really doing what we intended to do. And by creating this one-stop shop for economic development assistance, we're taking a much more comprehensive and integrative approach to support the launch and expansion of high-value companies. So a little bit about that. These are companies that are attracting top talent to the research park, but they're also attracting top talent elsewhere in Ames and even across the state. But companies like Vermeer, Boehringer Ingelheim are coming here because of what we're doing now, and they both just opened new facilities on our research park. In fact, Vermeer's new Applied Technology Hub is going to celebrate its grand opening later this month. And on the second floor of that building, the facility will be home to the new ISU Startup Factory, something I want to make sure everybody hears about. This first cohort of the Startup Factory is underway. The entrepreneurs are going to spend the next year working basically full-time to bring their innovations to full-scale commercialization. That's pretty exciting. And we're just putting out the call now for the 2017 cohort. The program has secured a new grant from the state of Iowa. So I think this new startup factory, with the funds we're getting from the state, the atmosphere at the research park, is really going to drive innovation, and you're going to see us move forward in a way you haven't seen before. Matter of fact, it's our goal over the next 5 years at Iowa State to be one of the top universities in the nation. Matter of fact, one of the top 5 universities in the nation is our goal in startups. And I think we can get there. And that will really put our science on the map. It'll put our economic development on the map, and it'll show that we're a university that can take science and actually make something happen with it, just like our mottos and mandates say. So early on, I made a commitment to double the size of the park. I didn't do that just because I wanted a bigger park. I did that because there's so much going on there, and there's so much potential out there, that I really felt that was the only way we could really capitalize on all this initiative and all the things that were out there. So I'd like to tell you tonight that that development is moving full steam ahead. Commercial developments are now coming out of the ground. This is a different approach to our park than we'd seen for many years. So Ames Racket and Fitness Club is being constructed there right now. There's a new restaurant that's all framed. We're starting on a new health clinic. The recreational trails are progressing quickly. And we're not done growing the size of the park. Even though it's doubled in the time I've been here, we'll be asking the Board of Regents next month to approve another 80-acre acquisition to the park. So there's a lot of exciting things going there that are going to provide benefit not just to citizens around the state, but also back to faculty and students on campus. For example, with the hundreds of internships our students have at the park every year. Addition to the park, I must say we've been also involved in a cooperative town and gown project with the city of Ames to completely overhaul the Ames Airport. Those who've been by there might see that there's a brand new hangar with great Iowa State colors on it. Soon we'll have a new terminal and a new operator for the airport. It's going to offer a much more inviting, convenient access to our campus community, and the city of Ames, and we're excited to be a partner in that. In general, though, I'll say we see huge potential in all these things fostering greater collaboration, innovation, and an entrepreneurial spirit in Ames. I think we'll look back on this time and see this was the era where we really pushed Ames to another level in innovative job creation and science and research making a difference. I think we're doing well to position Iowa State for big things, not only this year, which I'm really talking about, but in the years to come. The excitement, the enthusiasm each academic year brings is really refreshing. It's invigorating. It gives me the right on the front burner new ideas, new possibilities. It gets me invigorated, and this is no exception. This is going to be a really exciting year. And it's this excitement from different people, different perspectives, that really drives this. And so I want to talk a little bit about what makes this university vibrant and dynamic and really allows us to be successful in all these ways. Because I believe Iowa State can be a model for how we use diversity and how we become maybe the best truly inclusive university. And I want to do that by talking about goal 4 of the strategic plan. And bear in mind as I do that so much of what's happening at the park has come from a richness and diversity of ideas that are driving us to success. So this 4th goal is to continue to enhance and cultivate the ISU experience where faculty, staff, students, and visitors feel safe and welcome. But it's more than that. We want everyone to feel supported, included, and valued by the university and by each other on this campus. So this goal, as you might expect, will be partially managed by Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, Red Stewart. It'll be co-managed by Senior Vice President for University Services, Kate Gregory. But the truth of the matter on this goal especially, it's up to all of us to work together, to work with these 2 leaders, to provide a safe, more welcoming, and more inclusive campus. This is truly a team effort. We took an important step last year by bringing Dr. Stewart on board and establishing the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. But now we're moving to expand that office. We're in the final stages of hiring our first LGBTQA director. We're also going to hire our first ever Hispanic Latinx director. We've had great candidates. Many of you participated in the public sessions for those interviews, and we'll be filling those positions in the coming weeks, and I commend Dr. Stewart for driving forward on that. Thanks, Reg, for your efforts. As I mentioned, Dr. Stewart will also provide leadership in development and implementation of a campus climate survey. I mentioned that under Goal 1, but it fits here also. So more broadly, it will be enhancing our approaches to recruit and retain diverse students and employees. And there's a lot of things that go into retaining them, and that's something we're trying to get a handle on. So new this year, we're expanding our services for international students. We started with a 2-week immersion orientation program to help students make a smooth transition to campus. From what I saw, and I ran into some of the international students and their leaders, it was a very well-received program. In addition to other things we're doing to make Iowa State better, safer, more welcome, is we realize that healthy people are going to be more successful people, and I'm really talking about our students right here. To that end, we have worked diligently over the past year to overhaul the Student Health Center. Our new director, Aaron Baldwin, has done an amazing job of hiring more staff and making other improvements so students can experience shorter wait times and better care, and she's done it. If you look at the results coming in from their surveys, they've done it. The efforts are already paying off. The Student Health Center just earned a 3-year accreditation and had high marks on all 600 metrics. And we're not done. We're going to continue to make it better. We've also launched a comprehensive health, wellness, and safety initiative across our entire campus. And this includes adding staff to our student counseling services, hiring our first ever sexual misconduct prevention coordinator. These positions are going to work very closely with the Dean of Students and the Office of Equal Opportunity on educational efforts to stop sexual assault and harassment and empower survivors to come forward. These resources are needed. It's unfortunate they're needed, but they're needed, and we're going to put the resources where they are needed. Some other things related to health and safety on campus I want you to know about. ISU police are stepping up their safety and prevention efforts. They're piloting a body camera effort to improve transparency on campus. They've expanded the safety escort program and launched a new safety escort app that makes it easier to request a ride and track its arrival. Many have used these apps other ways, but I thought it was somewhat brilliant, maybe a little overdue that we had an app for a safety program. I talked to Cole about it the other day, and it's really been great. And ridership in the safety escort program is way up this year, partly because of this new app. Police have also expanded their multicultural liaison officer program to better engage with the underrepresented groups across our entire campus. I'm real pleased they've taken that step. And I'll make a comment here. Aaron DeLashman has served quite a while now in this interim police chief role, and we're getting ready to start a search for a permanent chief. But Aaron has done a really, really good job over time. So those that run in Aaron, please say thank you to him. I want to say that safety and well-being of everyone on this campus is really of paramount importance. As a president, you get up every day and you want people to be happy on this campus, but first and foremost, you want them to be safe. And I understand, I think everyone in Beardshire, all the deans understand that the hate crimes and racial violence that we've seen across this country, we've seen in other countries, have caused many people to feel scared, to feel angry, to feel frustrated. We've not lived in all those people's shoes, but we are certainly cognizant of this and aware of this. There have often been incidents over the past year of racism and bigotry on college campuses, and unfortunately, we have to include ourselves among one of those. The country is experiencing probably one of the most contentious presidential elections in history. And then on top of all of this, as we started the semester, our university community suffered tragic loss of 2 students and 2 professors. So there's a lot going on. It's kind of a difficult time socially. And so we're trying to figure out what's the best way to navigate through that for the good of this community. It's times like this that I must say that engaging in open dialogue, civil discourse, offering kindness and empathy make a lot of difference. And I encourage everyone to think about that. I conveyed in my campus email on the first day of class, I want to set a very clear expectation going forward of how I think we should treat each other. As members of the Iowa State community and psycho family, I'm asking everyone to recommit to the principles of community. Now, some of you are new here, and these principles of community were drafted by students a decade ago and endorsed campus-wide when President Joffrey was here. I truly believe they're as relevant today as they were back then, and maybe more so, quite frankly. So to become a truly inclusive, welcoming campus, we need to commit to these things. And I'm going to briefly go through them because I feel they're that important. First, respect. Fostering an open-minded understanding among individuals, organizations, and groups. You don't have to agree with everyone's opinion, but let's respect each other's opinion. Purpose, which on its surface, some people wonder, what is he talking about? But I'm talking about being engaged and building a genuine community. What is your purpose for being on this campus? So think about that. Thirdly, cooperation. Valuing each member of the Iowa State community for their insights and efforts to enhance campus life. Next, richness of diversity. As I said a moment ago, cherishing the richness of diversity and striving to increase the diversity of ideas, cultures, and experiences on this campus. We should all be aspiring to that. Freedom of discrimination. I think we all think that way, but I want you to think more about that. So I'll say we're working to overcome historical and divisive biases in society, and we need to respond swiftly and appropriately to all acts of discrimination. So think about when you see those acts, what you can and should do. And then lastly, I want to say, be honest and respectful of people's expression of ideas. Free expression is fundamental to the educational experience. Being on a university campus, you should expect to encounter differences in ideas and thoughts, but we can have respectful civil discourse about those things. To further that thought, we have a responsibility to challenge each other's ideas, to learn from their perspectives, even if these ideas and perspectives makes us uncomfortable at times. I don't feel that I need to make everybody comfortable here at all times. As a matter of fact, I don't think you should be comfortable at all times. We need to get out on the fringe and encounter things that are new and different to us. I say this especially for our students. But we can and we should and we must do this in a constructive, respectful way. Related to all of this, I recently clarified, or at least I hope I clarified, the university's policy on free expression to clear up some confusion and correct misinformation that's been around for a long time and been in the media repeatedly. So to be clear, free expression is welcomed and encouraged everywhere and anywhere on this campus. The specific zones we've talked about are really so that large public gatherings don't interfere or impede other university activities. And I hope everybody understands that and helps communicate that message. So back to the principles of the Iowa State community. You can find them online on the president's webpage. You can also find them online at the Office of the Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion. So they're easy to find. Encourage you to look at them again and get other people to look at them. So to make this point even further, racism, bigotry, discrimination, these are difficult issues to talk about, but we need to talk about them. We're not going to always get this right, but if we can't talk about these things openly and respectively, it's going to be a lot harder to address these issues and have good results. In fact, it's the only way we're going to make real progress toward a more inclusive, welcoming campus is if we have open, respectful conversations on these issues. So I urge you to share these principles widely. Use them in your classroom, organizations, post them in your offices, put them up at clubs. More importantly, hold others accountable when they fail to act in accordance with these values. So as I conclude tonight, I call on all of you to consider how you can help make this place, this great place, Iowa State, a better and stronger place, a better and stronger Iowa State than we've had before. I think the strategic plan provides a path to get us there. As the state's largest university and the only land-grant institution in the state, we serve a very important, unique purpose, and we bring tremendous value to this great state. And that's really as a result of people like yourselves bringing unique and special talents, ideas, and perspectives to this campus. So during this transformational time, I am really excited about how we're going to elevate Iowa State to the next level, move our reputation through an unwavering commitment to excellence. And I know you're the people that are going to have to deliver on this, but I know you can. So I want to thank all of you for what you have done and what you're going to do to make Iowa State a more exceptional place every day for our students, our faculty, our staff, and our visitors. So I'm going to say you all deserve a round of applause, and then after that, I'll take any questions you have. So are there any questions? We have some microphones set up on either side of their questions. Man, this might be an easy night for me. Either that or the desserts look especially good. Are we all set? Oh, we have one up front, very front.
Sorry, thank you. So Iowa State is currently 48th in the nation for mental health. And given that Iowa State has a top-ranked psychology program, how can we keep Iowa State graduates like PsyDs in Iowa? And like what kind of solutions and policy changes can we make to improve like the quality of life for Iowans with mental illness. And I think that falls maybe under 3. I'm not sure.
Well, that would be a better question for Governor Branstad, quite frankly, but
Do we have any, so I know that the problem is mainly like policy, right? So does Iowa State have any clout in like pushing through that stuff, or?
you know, that's a really good question. So what we've been trying to do over the last few years, especially since I've been president, is use our faculty more and more during the legislative process, especially as we set new policy. Joe Murphy sits in the front here, who served as our government relations person. So we are putting more faculty in front of legislators and the governor as they formulate policy and go forward. We'll continue to do that. Whether we can drive this to success, I don't know. It's a very complicated issue in the state right now. So I can't say too much more than that right now.
Hi, Eric Schultz from the student government. I'm wondering that sexual assault these last couple weeks have been pretty prevalent within the news, and I'm wondering if you could clarify, go into a little bit more detail. What is the university doing to make sure that victims can reach out to the resources that they need a little bit more?
Sexual assault has been and continues to be probably the major social issue on college campuses right now. So it's a hugely important question. We do have sexual assault training, which is being updated and modified. We've hired a new EEO coordinator in Margot Foreman, whose specialty really is in training. So we're hoping to continue to make progress in these areas. We're also hiring a new sexual misconduct harassment full-time educational person just to focus on these issues and ramp that up. We have a fully staffed sexual assault response team now, and we are trying hard through other campaigns like It's on Us and other campaigns to remove some of the social stigmas of survivors and victims coming forward. But this is going to be a long, continual process. We think we are making progress. We've actually seen a higher level of reporting than we've seen in the past. It's disappointing there's so many of them to report, but the fact that we're seeing higher reporting levels at least is indicative that we've made some progress in assuring victims it makes sense for them to come forward. We're always open for suggestions in this area. This is a very difficult, complicated area. It's one of Cole's big focus areas for student government. It's one of mine, and we'll continue to put resources on it. I would also encourage you, Margot is sitting just 2 rows behind you. She's an expert in this. You might want to, when we're done, get a moment and talk to her because she really is good at this and she's dedicated to this. Other questions?
Good evening, Andrew James. So you mentioned that there are near $426 million from private donations or external sources. Could you please expand upon that, and even more so what that entails when they make that donation?
Well, some of these are grants, and if they're from a large granting agency of the federal government, those usually have very specific caveats, and the faculty have written a proposal that talks about an area of scholarship they want to do, and so there are a lot of parameters set around the money coming to do those specific things. Another component of that, approximately 130 to 135 million last year, were in private donations through the foundation. Those come in a number of ways. Sometimes they come as general unallocated gifts where we have a lot of discretion how they're used. A large body of them come specifically for certain purposes. The big push the last few years has been in student scholarship. So sometimes a donor will want the scholarship in a department they graduated from or a college they graduated from. Sometimes they're more broad than that. So these private monies that come in a few different buckets. One of the biggest ones would be gifts through the foundation. The biggest one of all would be grants and contracts. And I'd say the range of restrictions on those monies is about as wide as the donors that give them. So it goes from very restrictive science areas to very little restrictions on some gifts. Any other questions? Yes, Cole.
So with the tuition increase, we have seen, we had a 5-semester tuition freeze for resident students, while non-resident tuition continued to climb. The 2% increase in tuition, is that for all students, or is that for resident undergraduate students only?
You know, it's not 100% finalized, Cole. These are target areas we're talking about where the numbers work pretty well. The provost has been working with the deans discussing incremental tuition across the colleges. We're still working on what these numbers would be. We understand from the students that you want the burden spread more fairly across different groups and not targeting any one group. So we're trying to make this fairer. Right now, we realize if we put a percentage increase on, that's a bigger dollar amount on non-resident students because their tuition is higher. So frankly, you and I will have to have some discussions on that. If we were to raise everybody 2%, the in-state students would still have the lowest tuition of our competitors in our peer group. If we put 2%, which is a much higher dollar amount on the non-residents, we'd still have the lowest tuition, non-resident tuition of everyone in our peer group. So either way, we would still be incredibly affordable. But as we refine these to go forward to the Board of Regents for final votes and all, we'll still be talking. So, you know, I would say encourage you to, as the provost goes through the colleges and the deans to get advice from their student advisory groups, I would encourage you to go through your mechanisms and make sure we have this right.
Well, hi, my name is Claire. I'm a third-year grad student in EEOB, and I'm the president of Asian American Pacific Islander Grad Student Association. So I'm just curious, what is Iowa State doing to integrate international students into the Iowa State community? It's one thing to bring them here, but it's another thing to encourage Iowa State students to actually interact with them. And there's also a strong anti-Asian sentiment that goes, you know, throughout the undergrad body and through the entire campus. So how do we bridge that gap?
I would say we've not done as good a job as we should to fully integrate international students to Iowa State as we could have in the past. We made a promise to the students, we made a promise to Cole and his predecessor when we put an additional fee on international students last year that money would go specifically for international students. So we have as you might have heard earlier in the talk, a whole new 2-week orientation program where international students actually have hosts and mentors that help them acclimatize to all different things that they can encounter when they move to the United States. As a matter of fact, my wife and I ran into a group of international students, small group, with their peer mentor at the state fair this summer, where their mentor was out orienting them to Iowa. It was kind of fun. They were having a good time at the fair. So, so we are taking the new resources we've gotten and putting them towards this whole new orientation program. Now, Dr. Harmon is sitting right next to you, and he's the senior vice president that oversees this. Martino, if you want to elaborate on this, you're certainly welcome to. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Sure, no problem. She was right there with the microphone. Yes, that's a great question. And actually, through the international tuition, we've been able to make a few different other initiatives. For example, we have a cultural ambassador program, which actually pairs up domestic students with international students, and it provides opportunities to interact and have a cultural exchange. We also have a first-year orientation class that actually follows up the 2-week orientation for international students. And we have a large number, that class is actually mandatory this year, and we have a large number of international students that are in that class, and a big focus of that class is integration and helping those students be successful. So we have a number of initiatives that we've been able to roll out that we've been working on, and the international tuition revenue really helps us to kind of take that forward. So.
Is all of the integration then on the international students' shoulders? You know, they've just arrived here. It's probably a huge burden for them to adjust. Like, is there anything that the Iowa State population, like, you know, people who have been here for a while to do, so that it's not all on the international students?
Yes, I would agree with that. And as President Leath said, we need to do a better job of that. One thing I do when I go out to different programs and talk to students in general is talk about the importance of cross-cultural exchange. One of the other things that we have in student affairs is a student event organization fund, so students can apply to have their events funded. And one of the requirements to get funding is to have cross-cultural promotion of those events. So, have an event, but encourage other students that are not part of your group to attend, and that increases their chances of getting funding. So we don't want to put it all on the backs of the international students. We want to encourage other students to attend, but it's something that we still need to work harder on for sure.
I'll follow up and say that it's been new to Iowa State to have the resources to be able to do this. And we've had some good ideas like this mentoring program, like Martino says, to tie funding for some student programs to cross-cultural activities. But this is still new. If anybody here has ideas, including you, I would encourage you to bring them to Dr. Harmon or me, and we'll certainly be receptive to that.
Thank you for the report. I think the goals are really clear to me. I'm the president of GPSS, Graduate and Professional Student Senate. One thing that I recently learned from graduate college is that they did a climate survey for graduate students. It wasn't really the best for graduate students. We compared with other universities, and I'm working with the provost and the dean, Holger, of graduate college to make sure that graduate students, not just, you mentioned about research, and most part of the research is the minds or the hands behind the research is graduate students. So there is this concern in the graduate student community whenever I talk to the graduate students that university do not really pay attention to the graduate students equally as they pay to the undergraduate students. Do you have any comments? Do you think that it's not fair to think on the graduate student part? Because I think almost everybody that I talked to in a graduate student community, they were like, okay, this is a mainly undergraduate university, so graduate students are almost undermined in many ways. But I don't think so that's true. I have worked with all the leadership, and that's not true for me. But I think from your perspective, what should be done?
Well, I think I will say first that the faculty I know here and respect care deeply about their graduate students. I see faculty and graduate students socializing together. I see rapport in the lab, so I know they care deeply about them. I may be old, but I'm not so old that I forgot that most research is done by graduate students, because I was one of them once, and spent a long time in the lab and in the field and other things. So we understand that. We also probably are a little bit guilty of the fact that we understand that graduate students are older, more mature. They're college graduates by definition. So we have an assumption they can be more self-functional than someone that shows up to us as an 18-year-old right out of high school. And that's probably not an unreasonable assumption. We're constantly looking at ways to improve graduate student life, and we do care about it. The provost and Dave Holger have both mentioned numerous times to me initiatives related to graduate students. So I would say if you see things that are specifically bothering you or the students you're representing, please bring them forward to Dr. Holger, who's dean of the graduate school, or myself. But because I know the faculty, myself, care deeply about the graduate students, and we know, and Dr. Nusser, as head of research, know that the success of our research initiatives depends heavily on the capabilities of our graduate students. So I thank you for all you do. Anything else? Uh-oh, Megan's running, so there must be something.
Hi, Joe Van Erderwick. I have a question about the tiered tuition program.
Yes.
I'm concerned about the idea that simply because students invest time at the Iowa State University, that they should be charged more, and the idea that simply because you're a junior or senior, you're going to use the university's facilities more than a freshman or sophomore. So I guess if you could talk about that and how you could make that assumption, or how you could assume that a tiered tuition would be reasonable at a public university.
Well, we've done a lot of calculating on the cost of education here at Iowa State. And the truth of the matter is, as someone goes through their program here, whether it's in English or material science or kinesiology, your classes tend to get smaller and they tend to get more expensive. You get into difficult laboratory class, you get into very small group classes, and there's no doubt when you look at the student-teacher ratio, about, we'll say a geneticist, because we had someone here talking from EEOB earlier, can teach a biology class to 300 or 400, the cost per student to deliver that education is significantly less than them talking in a class with 15 or 20 genetics majors in a discussion type class when they're seniors. So what we're trying to do is align the costs with the cost of education. At the same time, the worst thing you can do to a student is to saddle them with debt and have them leave the university without a degree. If the expense is a little bit backloaded on the back, and you look at our graduation retention rates, the likelihood of a junior or senior graduating is extremely high. So the people that will incur the higher part of the educational expense are the ones likely to be successful, graduate, and have the ability to pay this back. And so there are a lot of reasons to do this. We've studied this model at schools like the University of Michigan and Penn State, who've implemented models like this before us and saw the value proposition and where it works and where it doesn't and what the pitfalls are. So this wasn't like we took a dart and threw it at a dartboard of various tuition practice and chose this one. This has had a lot of thought, and in the meantime, the provost has been going to each college one-on-one and vetting this with college leadership as well as the student advisory councils in each college to get perspective. So we're not saying this is a done deal, but I also want to make it clear that this wasn't like just one of 6 possibilities and we chose it at random. But if you'd like to follow up, go ahead.
I guess I was just wanting to ask, you said Penn State and Michigan, or Michigan State? Is it used,
Michigan.
any other universities use it? And also I understand engineering and business use it. I guess I'm concerned about the idea of commoditizing the expense of education simply because you understand that someone who's going to graduate as a junior or senior has a better chance of success.
Well,
it doesn't mean that they're inherently going to succeed.
No, that's true. But we could try to implement a differential tuition model for every single major in every single year at Iowa State. And we'd have hundreds, if not 1,000 of them. Then you start to look at what is our role as a fiscally responsible university, as a fiscally responsible leader. Do I want to put that much administrative burden on this university that pulls resources away from academics to administrate something that's so complicated and so burdensome? So as we study this, we're trying to study the realistic implementation costs and try and make this as fair as possible. You know, things can be equitable without being equal. So we don't expect the tuition, differential tuition in engineering to be exactly the same as it is in some of our human sciences. We're not saying that this is exactly uniform in all places. So what I would suggest is, you know, you have a passion for this and an interest, which is really good. I'll volunteer the provost, and he's nodded and said, yes, if you would like to get more engaged in this, that would be good. We need students who really care deeply about this and want to ask those questions when we're trying to figure out what is the best and most reasonable path forward. So if you have a minute when you're done, provost is here in the 3rd row. Catch up with him, and he can make sure you're on one of these teams as we go forward. Because those are the exact questions we're trying to answer every day as we figure out what's the best way to implement this. So, anything else? Yes. Oh, wait for a microphone, sorry.
Hi, Carissa Menifee, English. You mentioned a greater focus on high-impact educational activities. Could you define what those might be and what the plan is for expanding those?
Well, we are about to enter into the largest capital campaign we've ever entered into. And I've often said, so I'll own it tonight, that as much as half of your education here at Iowa State comes from outside the formal classroom. And one of the reasons I truly believe our students progress well in their careers when they leave here, and one of the reasons we're placing students at 95%, is because they have a number of experiences outside the classroom. And if you look at some of our successful programs in Uganda or in Rome, or some of the co-ops and internship programs we have as close by as Kingland Systems on Lincoln Way or as far away as California, these are the things that can make a difference in our students and get them fired up about their field, make them perform better in the classroom, make them well-rounded as a student and more employable. Those things take resources, and it always pains me as a president to hear wonderful experiences from students, will say, for example, in the design program in Rome, and then encounter students who want to go to Rome and say, I cannot have these other experiences because I can't afford them. So we have got a new and aggressive approach to look at student support differently. So as you look at the Moving Students Forward initiative that's raised over $200 million so far, we no longer define that when I started 4 years ago as scholarships. We define that much more broadly to include scholarships, study abroad, many other programs like this to give students a fuller possible experience, especially for ones that couldn't afford it. So we'll continue to take that approach here, and we are really blessed at Iowa State that we have alums and friends that are willing to support these things. So when my wife and I were at the geology camp in Wyoming and talking to students who were doing hands-on geology in one of the most unique geological areas in the country, it made me feel good that we have these kind of high-impact experiences that our kids can get if they want them, and we're going to continue to emphasize that here at Iowa State. Anything else? With that, I'll say thank you very much. I believe there's some refreshments and a chance to socialize on the side here, and I'll be around if there's some specific questions you have for me. So thank you very much for attending.